Hi guys. Okay, so I showed the in-person kids this and I wanted to show it to you too, and I wanted to just put it up, but I realized that it probably wouldn't make as much sense without me explaining it. So here's some stuff that I've noticed while grading so far your Body 1 paragraphs, and I hope that this will help. This first one is the most important and the most prevalent, I should say, and this is going to make the difference between C level commentary, C to B level commentary, to high B to A level commentary, okay? A lot of you are mentioning the element, so you're saying that it's anaphora, or you're saying that it's amplification, or whatever your element is. And then you're giving me a purpose as to why he's using it. For example, you might say, here Kennedy uses amplification in order to promote peace and create unity. But there's a disconnect because you're not explaining how that element actually achieves that goal. It's like there's this missing step, okay? So on that note, I tried to put together a list of how what the devices do, what effects they have. This does not cover all the devices, of course, but I tried to cover some of the big ones. And then if you have a question about one, email me because I'm happy to talk to you that way. So anything that involves repetition, you would mention emphasis, okay, for the most part. I mean, there are possible reasons for, there are other possibilities for why you would use repetition, but for the most part, you're trying to emphasize or draw attention to something. However, you can't just say, he is using repetition to emphasize peace. You would need to explain what is being emphasized and why it's being emphasized. And that's the other thing that's sometimes missing is the why. You might tell me what he's doing and what the effect is, but why does he want to do that thing, he or she? Asyndeton and polysyndeton are very similar. Asyndeton speeds up a particular list of items in order to emphasize the sheer number of items in the list. Sometimes it will create urgency or an overwhelming feeling, and that's usually used to emphasize the sheer number of things. Polysyndeton wants the same effect, but it does it by slowing down the list instead. Rhetorical questions. Okay. So if an author is going to use rhetorical questions, they want the audience to think about something, but they don't want to have to directly say it. They want the audience to come up with the answer in their heads. It's almost like a little bit of manipulation because then it almost feels like it's their idea and they came up with that answer, even though it was kind of fed to them by the speaker. The author is going to ask rhetorical questions that they know what the audience's answer is going to be. There are some exceptions to this rule, especially in the perils of indifference speech. Wiesel uses a lot of rhetorical questions, as you've probably noticed in that speech. And I think a lot of them are being asked because he thinks that these are questions that need to be asked because they have not been asked either before at all or enough. And so I think that there is definitely a lot of logical reasoning going on there, a lot of utilizing pathos to make people think about things that maybe they have either ignored or willfully chosen to put out of their heads, which I guess is the same as ignore. Hypophora is usually used in anticipation of questions. So the speaker is thinking, all right, I understand that people are probably wondering to themselves the answer to this question, so I'm just going to go ahead and address it. Another thing I wanted to note was that parallel structure, chiasmus, I should say anaphora and epistrophe as well, aside from emphasis, they also create a rhythm which will catch attention. And rhythm is a very useful tool for remembrance. So if you want your audience to remember something, say it in a way that they're going to remember what it is, which is usually in a rhythm, which is why we love pop songs so much, because they tend to have a very reliable beat. It's why when we're children, we learn to memorize things usually to songs, like our ABCs. When I was a kid, my maiden name, the name that I grew up with, my last name was Schweikauser, which is not easy for a 5-year-old to spell. And I remember that my mom made a song to help me spell it, and it's a song that I remember to this day. So creating rhythm will help with memory as well as draw attention, as well as emphasize. Okay, so that's the big one. This is kind of more like a note. You don't have to use my exact transitions. It's fine if you do. I've noticed a lot of you have used them exactly, and I am okay with that. I will not take off points for that. But you don't have to, so I don't want you to feel like you're locked into that. Let's see. Okay, what I mean when I say your evidence is not contextualized is some of you are giving me, and I think you're taking my advice to heart where I said try not to overquote, but some of you are underquoting so much that I don't know what's going on in the speech. And so you'll say something like, Reagan repeats the words by or repeats the word by in order to emphasize how important it is that presidents visit Berlin. And it's like, as a reader, I'm like, wait, what does the word by have to do with anything? So your quotes and your evidence need to have context to them. I need to know at least a little bit about what's going on in the speech at this point, what they're talking about, before you give me the purpose. So that can be resolved by you either paraphrasing what's going on or just quoting a little bit more. Okay. Okay, this is kind of a big one, and I even made this mistake myself, and I've been reading it and realizing that I don't like it. So when you're using pathos, ethos, and logos, I want you to try to use the verb use, used, or utilizes instead of build. If you're going to say build pathos, instead of saying pathos, say the actual emotion, like build sympathy, or elicit sympathy, or build anger, or make the audience feel angry, okay? Same with ethos. Don't say build ethos, because it doesn't actually make a lot of sense to build the appeal to credibility. You can only build credibility. You're welcome to talk about ethos by using the word credibility instead of using the word ethos. That's okay. Or you can say that the author utilizes ethos in order to establish credibility, something like that. This is kind of minor, but it is a big deal that you need to remember. You cannot use the author's first name only. You are not on first name terms with this person. You're not their friend. It's not Michael. It's Michael J. Fox. It's not Ronald. It's Ronald Reagan. You may use first and last name, or you may use only last name. Even in the case of a president, you don't have to say President Ronald Reagan the entire time. You can just say Reagan. But you know that's usually the case even in the real world. Like, it's considered respectful to always say president when you're speaking about them, but when you're writing about them, it's okay to just use their last name. But if, I'm fine with you using the full title, but you just can't use only their first name. That's the only thing you can't do. Okay, and then last but not least, oh, my lights just turned off because they're on a sensor. There we go. I'm the only one in here right now, and I guess I'm not moving enough. Whenever you're talking about pathos, always be sure to mention the specific emotion that's being elicited. Okay, and I don't mind you stealing my word elicit. Okay, it's not my word. So if you're gonna talk about pathos somewhere, you need to mention what emotion the author and speaker is going for. All right. Okay, I hope this helps as you continue. It's the end of a red day right now, so Green Day kids, depending on when you watch this, you may not know this yet, but you guys over the weekend are working on your full rough draft and bringing it. Well, okay, Canvas kids, you're going to turn it in on Canvas. Virtual kids, you're going to turn it in on Canvas, but in-person kids, you guys are going to actually bring out a printed version to class. But my point is the whole paper needs to be done as a rough draft by next class. So I hope this helps along the process. I am pretty much done with all the Red Day kids. I hope you missed the bells. I'm pretty much done with all the Red Day kids that have submitted their body paragraph 1s. I am moving on to the Green Day kids. I am going as fast as I can, but I'm also planning to go to the football game tonight, go Highlanders. So that's going to slow me down just a little bit. I do intend to grade at the game, but I will get them done as quickly as I can. I hope everybody's having a fantastic Thursday / Friday / whatever day you're watching this on. And I look forward to the day when we can all be together again.